Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope people can hear me. And if not, I hope you guys can tell me that you can't hear me. All right. Okay. It's wonderful. It's a wonderfully, well, where I am, it's a wonderfully sunny and bright Tuesday afternoon, or yeah, sort of like late afternoon, actually. And for you guys, I believe it's an evening, isn't it? Fantastic. Okay. All right. Wonderful. So I am just going to get right into it because I don't intend this to be a very long presentation. Okay. So as you know that I am on my group, I run a few different series. Now I've started a new series called Teach Right. Teach Right is aimed at parents, at teachers, and there are different topics that will come there. We'll come into it, for example, teaching strategies, mindset training, positive psychology for children, self-management for children. And in children, of course, we include both students and kids, right? So I will be giving it out as tiny micro lessons. So today's class, today's session can be considered like a micro lesson, right? Like a lot of information condensed into a tiny little cube and given out in a short span of time, right? So there's going to be a lot of information. And if you want to jot anything down, or if you feel like I'm going too fast, or you're afraid you might miss anything in between, don't worry. The recording will be up on my page. You can view it whenever you want and how often you want, if you want any of the information, right? Questions, of course, are welcome, absolutely welcome. You can ask me in between. I will leave a space towards the end for any and all questions, and that's probably where I will be answering all the questions. So in between, it's not going to be an interactive session. The point of it being a micro learning session is that it's not going to be interactive. It's just going to be quick information, quick delivery, and then clarifying questions. Now, if you are watching this live with me, I will be taking your questions live, right? You will be using the chat option. If you're watching it live on Facebook, you will be using the chat option to write your question down for me, and I will answer it for you, right? And if you are watching the recording of it, even then you can ask questions. I have no issues with that. I would welcome all your questions. It's great for me if you can ask any questions, or give me some extra information, or give me extra points. So what you have to do is you just have to comment on the bottom of the video on my Facebook page, and I will make sure to keep an eye out for any and all questions and comments. Right? So just because you're watching a recording doesn't mean that I'm not going to answer back. I'm definitely going to be interacting with you on that level, right? Okay, all right, let's begin our topic. Cultivate a growth mindset in your classroom. All right, let's move on. Okay, so you should know me by now, especially if you're on my group. I'm, what's it called? I'm the local expert in the group. I'm the expert of the group, and my name is Ida, and I'm going to be facilitating today solo, going completely solo. This is a micro lesson on how a growth mindset can be cultivated in the classroom. And I'm trying to make the case on why it is very important, because through different parts of this lesson, you are going to wonder, yeah, but is it really important? And I'm going to try and convince you as best as I can that it is absolutely not only just important, but it is necessary. It is absolutely necessary, right? Okay, so let's get into it now. We're talking about mindset. Let's just get into it. I want you to take a look at the agenda, and then we're just going to take a look at the agenda, and then we're going to go on to what a mindset is. So today's agenda, we're going to be exploring the difference between fixed and growth mindset. We are going to see how growth mindset plays a role in education. Now, we can talk about education in the classroom. which is going to be, because since most of my main audience is, our teachers, that's, it'd be relevant to them. However, if you're a parent, it's relevant to you as well, because every piece of advice that I can give to the teachers to use in the classroom with their students can also be used by a parent with their child, right? I will also be giving you some practical strategies for teachers and parents with actual wording on actual phrases that you can use to help children grow their mindset or to help pave the way for a growth mindset. And that's it pretty much. And I'm going to help you help children change their words, the words they use for themselves, right? Okay, that's today's agenda. Let's dive right into it. Now, I want you to imagine, I'm sure you already know that if you are a teacher or a parent, have you ever come up with a situation where a child comes to you, or you're teaching a class? Let's say you're a math teacher. You're standing in the front of the classroom. You walk into the class. You've got 20 to 25 students in the class already, right? And you've been with them for a couple of months. So you know already which students are very good at math. They just need a new concept. They need to understand it properly, and then they go with it, and they work really well with the math concepts. And then there's the other students, a small group of students probably, or maybe one or two students who are just not grasping the concepts. And as you walk into the classroom, you can immediately see the change in body language between these two types of students. The students who are like, oh, this is easy for me, I can do it. They've got their shoulders back, their heads raised, they're ready with their books on their table, or if, they're eagerly taking out their books and they're putting it on the table. They're ready for questioning, they're ready to listen, and they're always ready to ask a question from the teacher. Then you have those students who are just not confident. I'm not going to talk about confidence now. They haven't been performing the way that you expect them to as a math teacher. Their shoulders are hunched, their heads are down, they're probably distracted, they're probably trying to look as small as possible so they can maybe disappear, even though you know that's impossible, right? And their books are most likely still in the bag unless you prompt them to take it out. They don't like to answer questions. They never ask any questions of themselves. They don't try to ask any questions that will help them understand. And it's always a little bit of a challenge, right? Now, what's going through the minds of these kids? The child that considers itself that math is very difficult and it's not really good, and I'm not really doing well in math, is usually telling themselves, I am naturally bad at math. I'm just not good at it. God, I just can't get it. My brain is not smart enough. Math is just not for me. I am not a math person. Most of the time, kids think like that, especially when they're struggling with something, right? That's one aspect. That's what's going through the mind of the kids. Another aspect, have you guys, as educators, you would probably know, right? How we perpetuate stereotypes. There's a lot of stereotypes in the world. For education, we have a very common stereotype that boys are naturally better at math and sports, isn't it? So usually when it's sports class, boys are like rushing out to go and play their favorite thing with a ball and a bat and whatnot. The more rowdy it can be, the better. And girls are just like, yeah, we're just going to go out and chat. Yeah. Another stereotype is that girls are better at arts and languages. Now, my question is, how much of the difference in their behavior is as a result of them actually being different, like girls bad at sports, boys good at sports? Or is it the stereotype that the world puts on them? Is it our assumption that they're just not going to perform at sports? They're just not going to perform very well at math. In any class, in any girls' class, on average, we don't expect 100% of them to perform well. We expect maybe 60% to perform well and 40% to be struggling. In an average class of boys, when it comes to math, we expect at least 80 to 90% of them to be performing, and just a measly 10 to 5% to underperform. That's our expectation. That's what we go into the classroom with. How much of our expectation is affecting our students, right? That's something to think about, right? So this is one type of thinking that kids have. I am naturally bad at something. Let's take a look at another example. So I've given you a bit of a comic in front. It's supposed to be a little bit funny, but I'll explain it. I'll give you the context. Okay, don't worry, I'm not leaving you completely, high and dry. I will give you the context. So there's a tiny baby there, right? And there's, I can only assume his older sister is standing in front of him, right? This baby's it's sitting down, it's not standing. So what she says to him is, you gotta learn to talk, Jeffrey. It's part of the aging process. Now, this is meant to be as a funny cartoon, but there's a key problem here, something that I want to highlight, something that we, as educators, as adults, as grown-ups, we kind of put onto our children. We kind of force it onto our children. We worry so much about how everybody is supposed to perform according to a proper schedule. A child must walk at a certain age, must talk at a certain age. They must learn to button their shirts at a certain age, put their own shoes on at a certain age, tie their own laces at a certain age, be able to write the alphabet at a certain age, be able to speak in sentences. And then what kind of sentences? Well, sentences that are 3-word sentences, and then 4-word sentences, and then from simple to compound sentences. So we have each and every milestone laid out for the children. Am I saying this is a problem? No, I'm not. I'm not saying this is wrong, not at all. The thing is that this is, okay, let me explain. So the actual milestone is not a problem, okay? Because using the milestones, you can gauge where your child is at. Just like in the classroom, you have a curriculum. You have a curriculum from August all the way to July, what you will be teaching to the kids in every grade level, right? And if you are a math teacher or a science teacher, you know that every grade level progresses to be harder and harder, isn't it? Or more challenging. I wouldn't use the word harder, just more challenging. So grade 4 science is going to be less challenging than grade 6 science. And you have it all written down in your curriculum. In our lesson plans, we always, in our objectives, we use the phrase students will be able to, SWBAT, and then we list down the number of objectives. They will be able to do long division. They will be able to factorize. They will be able to, I don't know, find out the square root of something. I'm sorry, I'm not a math teacher, but I'm just off the top of my head. I'm sorry if I have math teachers watching me and they're saying, no, we don't do factorization with whatever. I'm sorry, I'm an English teacher, but so anyway, but math examples are coming in my head. Anyway, so we write our objectives down as students will be able to, but our language, when we talk to students, when we talk to parents about their children's progress, when we discuss between teachers or between teacher and principal, how the child is doing in class, and if the child is facing challenges, we use the word must, he must. We use the word should, oh, but he should. And we use the word have to. Oh, but they have to learn. How this child has to learn. He's in 4th grade. He needs to learn factorization or he can't go in the 5th grade. So we set so much emphasis. These milestones were supposed to be a guidance for us, just a loose guide, but we decided to turn it into an actual map, into an actual, you must be here at this age, you must be there at that age. Do you understand? So we do this at home with our kids, we do this in school with our students. And so a child ends up thinking, oh my God, it's too late for me. It's too late for me. It's the end of the 2nd grade and I don't know my multiplication of tables, of 1 and 2. And oh my God, I can't do it. It's too late. It's too late. The whole idea that it's too late is so damaging to a child. It shouldn't be there. It should not be there. And we perpetuate. And then the third scenario that I'm showing you now is a child who seems to be defeated. You can see the picture of a child. He looks defeated. He looks kind of completely hopeless, maybe a little bit helpless. And what's going through his mind? what's the point of trying? I'm going to fail anyway. And as a teacher, I've been teaching for 15 plus years. As a teacher, I have come across many, many students who think that, many students who are like, well, I'm not going to try because I'm just not good at this subject. What's the point? I'm just going to get a passing grade and that's it. I can't do better than that. And that is heartbreaking because half of it is because of them in their mind, the way they think. There's something wrong with the way they think about themselves. That's wrong anyway. But then the way we communicate to them, there's something wrong there as well. There's a divide. We're not handling the situation very well. And this is why I'm doing this whole session, so we can change our words and change the minds of kids, right? Okay, all right. So what are all these examples? All of these examples that I've just given you are of something called a fixed mindset. Now, you already saw in the agenda, we're going to be discussing two kinds of mindsets, right? Fixed and growth mindset. So what is exactly growth mindset? I've given you some examples of a fixed mindset where kids are saying, oh, I don't know, I can't, it's too late for me. Why bother trying? I'm not even going to achieve anything. So what exactly is a growth mindset? That's the opposite of a fixed mindset, right? So what's it called? Growth mindset is something that was pioneered by a professor of Stanford called Dr. Carol S. Dweck. And in 2006, she wrote this book that you see on your screen. She wrote this book called Mindset. And her caption was changing the way you think to fulfill your potential. So it was meant to be as a new psychology of success, and it popularized the idea of growth and fixed mindsets. She didn't pioneer the idea, she just popularized how we thought about it, right? So let me give you an idea. So one theory of intelligence, it says that people can be categorized according to their beliefs about their ability. So if you believe your ability is very high on a certain task, for example, your language skills are very strong, right? Your English language skills are super strong. Your mindset about your own ability is going to be pretty strong. You're going to consider yourself to be very, very intelligent. On the other hand, if English happens to be another child's second or third language, and they're relatively less able, or they're not as good at it as the first child, then in their mind, their level of ability is very limited. They think that they have lower intelligence because of their low ability. So that's basically this one theory of intelligence that this mindset book discusses. So in order to understand exactly what happens in the mind when you have a growth and a fixed mindset, we have to compare the differences between them. Let's see, 1 second. I think I went onto the wrong slide. Give me 1 second. Okay. So we've already discussed this. People with a fixed mindset believe that abilities are fixed, while people with a growth mindset believe that they can acquire abilities through effort and study. This is the key difference between the two. So if you have a child who thinks, oh, I'm terrible at English, I'm just terrible at English. That's a fixed mindset, because that child believes that their ability cannot get any better. But if a child thinks, no, wait a second, I'm going to get some tuition, I'm going to get another teacher, I'm going to go home, start reading, work a little bit of the exercises in my book, and I can get better. That's a growth mindset. That's a child exhibiting growth mindset who believes that with a little bit of an extra effort, and a little bit of an extra study, they can get better. Their ability is not limited. That's essentially the basic of what the difference is. Now, I've put up a chart in front of you to kind of give you a brief idea of how key concepts, we as teachers, there are key abilities and key skill points that our students should be getting from us, that we should be teaching them through our curriculum, through our syllabus. I'm sure most of you know, and most of you believe, or should believe, that as teachers, our job isn't just delivering the curriculum, it's shaping minds. So what are the key aspects? So this is half the chart that I've put on your screen, if you can take a look at it. The blue brain is the fixed mindset, which is, of course, that means that intelligence is as it is and it cannot change. The green brain on the right-hand side, on the opposite side, you can see is a growth mindset, which with the core idea that intelligence can be developed and grown and made better. So we've got three aspects here that we need to give our children: the ability for challenges, to accept challenges, the ability to face consequences, and the ability to make an effort. Now let's take a look at how these two mindsets work with these three abilities. Challenges. A fixed mindset child would avoid challenges. They wouldn't want to face them. Whereas a growth mindset child would embrace challenges as a new way of gaining strength in whatever the challenge is about, whatever the challenge is about, right? Whether it's a subject matter, whether it's a project, whether anything that gives them a challenge helps them grow. And they accept that. Obstacles. Fixed mindset students give up easily. You ever have that kid that raises their hand like, Miss, I don't understand. Miss, I can't. Miss, I have no idea. Or if you're a parent, I can't do this. No, mommy, I can't. I don't know. You have those kids, right? That's a fixed mindset. They're exhibiting traits of a fixed mindset. Whereas a growth mindset child would persist in the face of setbacks. So I'm not saying that they won't show frustration. Every child will show frustration. They may want to give up, but it's on you, how you challenge them next, or how you question them to show them that they face one problem, no issues. Not everything's going to be easy. Face that, deal with it, move on. That's the key concept here. Let's talk about effort, the ability to make an effort. Fixed mindset children, they see effort as fruitless or worse. So they have such a negative impact. Sorry, they have such a negative idea about the impact of effort, probably because they made an effort in the past and either they were criticized for it, or it yielded a bad result, or they were made fun of, something. And because of that, they shun the idea of effort. They don't want to make effort. They run away from that. So whatever's easy is great. Whatever's hard is just not worthy of doing. Growth mindset kids, they see effort as a path to mastery. So growth mindset, they have an idea that I can go up, level up in my different skills, and then I can attain mastery. And I don't have to get I don't have to become a master of this thing, but I would really like to go level up, so the next three, so we've done three abilities. We've got on your screen now, you will see the remaining two abilities. One is the ability to face criticism. And the next one is the ability to see the success of others. These are the key concepts, key personality character traits that we as educators and as parents need to be putting into our children. Let's see how the kids of the different mindsets react to them. So when they are given criticism, a child with a fixed mindset would ignore the useful feedback and feel very negative about it. They would react to the criticism. They would just feel bad about it. That's all they would feel, just feel bad about it. And they would not even absorb the criticism, even after a length of time has gone by. Whereas a growth mindset kid, they would learn from the criticism. They would remove the emotions from the actual words of the criticizer, and they would take the criticism, right? Okay. What's the next one? Success, the ability to see the success of others. So a fixed mindset child would feel threatened by the success of others, would have, when they see somebody else succeeding or being at the top of the class, or at home, getting the love and affection of the parent that they themselves think, oh, we don't get that. I think they're the favorite student, they're the favorite child, we don't get that. They feel threatened by that. They have feelings of envy, of jealousy. They have feelings of not being enough somehow. And then they want to try and to be enough. But then all the other things above that we just read, the lack of effort and the challenges, the not wanting to face challenges, all of these things pull them down. And so they feel even less worthy. and they feel even worse when other people are successful. Growth mindset kids, on the other hand, they find lessons and inspirations in the success of others. That's why you have a very popular genre of fiction books, which is business books or books written by successful entrepreneurs, successful, successful scientists, you have a whole genre of nonfiction books that just detail the lives of successful people. And it is very popular. Reading those books is one way of changing your mindset, right? Like I remember reading this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It changed my mind about money, how to handle money, how to grow it. And it was amazing. I can't say I adopted all of the things that I read, but it helped me to think in a different way, right? In a less self-critically way. There are tons of books out there. That's one thing that I would encourage kids and adults to do, is to read success stories and books by successful people, because they lay out how they attain success in their life, and that helps us change our mindset, right? Okay, so this was just a brief description of what the difference between fixed and growth mindset is. Now the question comes, can a human being only have one kind of mindset? Well, up until recent years, yes, that's what people thought. In the beginning, in 2006, when her book came out, Dr. Carol Dweck, she believed that you can only attain one mindset, or not attain one mindset, but you are under the influence of majorly one mindset. However, that's not the case. Recent studies have shown that each one of us carries certain elements of both mindsets. It's just a matter of which one overlaps what, right? So if you feel you identify, like the table that I went through, did you feel that you identified with some certain aspects of the table that I just described? For example, at the point of criticism, or when we talked about effort, when we talked about challenges, did you feel that you kind of were more towards one side or the other side of the table? Did you? Well, most of us would. Not everybody can be, the studies have shown that you cannot be 100% growth oriented. You cannot be. It's not possible to be that. It's not humanly possible. Our brains aren't oriented that way simply. So it's useless to be able to go up to try and be perfect at everything, to try and attain mastery over all aspects of whatever it is that you're doing. It's just not possible. Our brains are not oriented that way. And we need to accept the faults in ourselves and the faults in others. It's perfectly normal. It's part of being human, right? Okay, let's move on. So, as teachers, should we be concerned about teaching this? I mean, that's a question. That's a real question. Should we care? I mean, teachers holding this belief that that there is a growth and a fixed mindset, and maybe there's a child, maybe that math teacher I was talking about, who came into her class and who sees that child who just never does well in math, doesn't seem to be putting any effort into it and doesn't really care about it. Maybe she might think, oh, but that child is like, oh my God. So she goes away, she learns about, she goes somewhere, she learns about growth and fixed mindset, and she suddenly understands, oh, so that's why my student is failing. And she might come and she might say, well, I can't teach you math because you have a fixed mindset. Oh, I'm very sorry about the noise in the background, but apparently I have my little 3-year-old around me, so there's going to be a little bit of noise in the background at times. So anyway, okay, so let me move on. Okay, so where was I? I'm sorry, I got distracted by my child. Yeah, life of a mom, right? Okay, where was I? Okay, so the teacher might think, okay, now that I've learned about fixed mindsets and growth mindsets, I come back to my classroom, I see that child who just doesn't perform in math, and I say, well, I'm sorry, kid, but I can't teach you math because you have a fixed mindset. Now, imagine how that would impact a child. I'm not saying that a teacher would do this or has done this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that logically, after having seen that table, you as a teacher might come to that conclusion and might think, well, I can't help this child. That child clearly has a fixed mindset. What am I going to do about it? Well, I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of stuff you can do about it. It just takes persistence, it takes time, and a lot of patience, right? Okay. Oh, I need to change my slide. Okay. So I took a statement out from the book of Professor Dweck. She says, you don't get a growth mindset by proclamation. This, I need you to take a minute to absorb this. You do not get a growth mindset by proclamation. So if you stand in the middle of your living room and you say, I have a growth mindset, it doesn't work that way. Or if you stand in a classroom and you say, well, you have a fixed mindset, also doesn't work that way. So proclaiming a mindset does not get you anywhere. It does not mean that that is a mindset you have. Okay, it takes effort to recognize and manage our fixed mindset. We have to recognize the limitations and we have to tackle them one by one. We develop strategies to help us shift out of our fixed mindset thinking. And that is not as hard as it sounds. We all need to recognize that developing a growth mindset is a journey filled with setbacks and challenges. The good news is that with practice, we can learn to recognize our fixed mindset and shift our thinking back toward growth and learning. We definitely can do that. All right, okay. So let's talk about, when we talk about mindset, how to think of mindset when it concerns our students and kids. For those of you who are still not clear how this impacts their students, I've put something up on the slide for you. If you take a moment to just take a look at it while I sip my coffee. I'm sorry, I need something. Coffee is not really hydrating, but I'm using it as such. It's a liquid, isn't it? Okay. So the statement is, teaching students to comprehend, to absorb, and to apply new material and concepts is challenging under any circumstances. The undertaking, however, this challenge, however, is much greater when students doubt their own ability to learn. So when you have a student struck by disbelief in their own ability, their complete doubting of their own ability of absorbing this wonderful history lecture that you worked hard on, that you made a beautiful presentation on, that you are using you are using slides, you're using videos, you're using archaeologist interviews, you're using everything. You've pulled out all the stops to create your perfect history-based lesson plan. But if the child in front of you doesn't think that they're able to grasp historical concepts or doesn't think that they're even interested in it, then your challenge is 10 times more. So wouldn't you as teachers want to tackle that challenge first so that your job as teaching becomes easier? That the effort that you put into your lesson planning translates more, wouldn't you? Right, you would, right? That's exactly right. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. So I've got a comment. Sorry, I would like to read out loud from on my Facebook page from Sundus. It says, a lot of adults can't take criticism. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But I would say that's true about a lot of us, isn't it? That's true for a lot of us who can't take criticism. I think I would include myself in that category. Not that I can't take criticism. I mean, I can, but sometimes criticism really just hurts. Whether you're a kid or an adult, it really just hurts. It hurts. It makes you feel bad. It makes you feel horrible. But then after a time, I can snap out of it and I can say, wait, hang on a minute. Okay, I didn't like it, but maybe the person had a point. Maybe there was something there. I don't know, maybe, right? It also depends on how the criticism is given to you. All right, okay, let's move on. So how do we foster a growth mindset in students? Okay, so this is a very simple way a way in front of the, very simple way. I tried to simplify it as much as possible and put it up on the slide. So learning how to foster a growth mindset in students takes time and takes a lot of practice. The approach requires consistent instruction that reinforces and demonstrates the idea that students can improve their ability. Notice, I didn't say that you come into the classroom and you all of a sudden change your demeanor, your wording, and you say, guys, you can do it. You can do it. No, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. Not at all. Because when you say you can do it, you are still focusing on an outcome. If a child comes to you and says, but I can't do this long division, I just can't. And if you say, hey, I know you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Go on, try it. Go on, try it. That's not helping the child as much as we think it is. Yes, we're being encouraging. Yes, we're being kind. We're not being negative in any way. We're being positive, but it's not constructive. It's not helping them. At the most basic level, mindset techniques involve shifting the emphasis away from outcomes and towards the effort and process. So instead of praising an accomplishment, like finishing, like getting the answer of the long division, you focus on the process that it took for the child to get that answer. You praise the effort. You praise the learning steps, right? So for example, that child who comes to you and say, but I can't do long division, you know, and then you ask, okay, so what's the problem? Is it because there's 3 digits? Can you do 2 digits? Can you do 1? Okay, let's take it step by step. Do 1. Okay, fantastic. All right, very good job. All right, so you've done step 1. What's the next step? Okay, very good. And then what's the next step? Excellent. And then when they get the result, you automatically know that they're going to get the result because you've helped them achieve their steps and you've praised them in between for actually doing their steps. And then at the very end, you say, fantastic job. See, I knew you wouldn't give up. Great job. Great problem solving. Excellent. Notice how I didn't praise the child for getting a result and for finishing their classwork. No, I praised the child for not giving up, for putting in extra effort, for taking up the challenge and saying, I can do it and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to take it step by step, breaking up a big problem into small little chunks. So I praise the effort and not the outcome. That's what you need to do. Okay, so let's take, so we've done math. Math is an easy example. Let me give you an example of English. Let's say, for example, you gave an essay topic to the students, right? And of course, you have different language levels in the class. The essay can be English, Urdu, it doesn't matter. A language is a language and the complexities are pretty much the same, right? So you gave them an essay and the students all sit down to write the essay. You will inevitably have that child who says, but I'm done and I don't know what to write. Oh, miss, I don't know what to write. I'm finished. Or miss, I'm stuck, right? So if you're faced with the challenge where a student says, but I'm stuck, what do I do? What do you say? You go up and you say, oh, you've written 1 paragraph. Okay, all right, good job. How long did it take you? Okay, not bad. So you took 10 minutes and you stuck to it. You stuck to your guns and you wrote the first paragraph. Very good. Now I see some challenges in your grammar. Can you fix those? Yeah, I see, like, take a look at that one. There's something wrong with that sentence. Can you fix that? Good job. Okay, all right, good. I love the hard work that you do. So she's done that 1 paragraph. And then you go to the other kids and you circle back to that same girl after a few minutes and you're like, oh, wow, did you get a new idea? You know, I mean, like, take a look at the sentence. I think this is where the idea for your next paragraph is. Do you think you can write that? So I'm prompting and I'm encouraging at the same time. I'm not giving them the answer. I'm not being upset, like, you know, like, you need to do this classwork. I've given you the classwork. It's your job to do it. Do it or I will fail you. I'm not being negative that way. And I'm also not giving unconstructive feedback, you know, where I'm just saying, hey, try. I know you can do it. You write beautifully. That's not constructive. It's positive and it's great. And I'm very happy if you do that. I'm happy if any teacher does anything positive than negative. but it doesn't help them constructively. It doesn't give them a growth mindset concept, you know? So no result, all the emphasis should be on the efforts, right? I think I've pretty much clarified what that is. Okay, all right. So now I've come up to how you can use your wordings. I've put up on the screen examples for parents and teachers. Okay, so as you can see, on the left-hand side, you've got fixed mindset statements, and the same statement, I've changed it into a growth mindset statement. So let's take a look at this. Let's see how we've constructed it, okay? So now we're gonna go back to the example of a math classroom. You have a child who's just struggling, and you're trying to be nice. You're trying to be positive and not negative and not berate the child or scold it, you know. You're hoping that by being positive, encouraging, that child will feel like, okay, I'm gonna try again. My teacher's so nice to me. And yes, sometimes that works. Yeah, sure it does. But if you want a better result, instead of saying, hey, it's okay if you're having trouble, maybe algebra isn't one of your strengths. Instead of saying that, because that gives your child or your student the idea that they're never going to be good at algebra, you can say, hey, did you know when you learn how to do a new kind of problem, it develops your math brain? Like, give them something to think about. Like, there's a part of the brain that just deals with math. Yeah. And do you know that when you give it a new problem to solve, and while you're solving it, it grows, it gets better, it gets stronger? No way. Now you've shifted the idea from, I can't do this, I'm unable to do this, I don't have the ability to do this. From there, you've shifted it into, hang on a minute, I can grow my brain. Yes, I want to do more problems. I want to grow my brain. It also gives them the idea that if they fail once, no issues. Try again, it'll grow your brain. The next time they do the same kind of problem, it won't be as difficult. They won't fail. They'll get it. And then they try a harder problem and then a harder problem. And that's how their brain grows. Let's take a look at the other statement. Great effort. You tried as hard as you could. So now here you've got the example of a student who gave you some work that is not exactly like really great, and you know it's not great, and you know the child could have done better, but because you're a positive teacher, which I am absolutely not criticizing, I think it's wonderful. Please, 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 we need more positivity, no negativity. So you're a positive, kind teacher, so you say, great effort. You tried as hard as you could. Good job. Instead of saying that, you could say, well, honey, the goal isn't to get it right immediately. The goal is to improve your understanding step by step. What can you try next? So here you're giving the child the idea that they can do better. Whatever work they've given can be improved upon, right? And the goal isn't that try once and you know you will get the right answer. That's not the goal. That's never the goal. You're not supposed to be, it's not a contest of how little time it took for you to get there. It's not a contest. It's about, you know, how much you've learned, how you've broken it down step by step, how much you've learned along the way, how better can you make it? You know, just like every essay, you don't have just one draft, you have two drafts, and then you have the final product. Okay, third statement. Now, a child is coming to you with a problem they just can't solve. So what do you say? Being a positive, wonderful teacher, you say, don't worry, you'll get it if you keep trying. And that's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine, but it won't help the child believe in themselves or improve. Instead of saying this, you could say, you know that feeling that you're experiencing of algebra being hard? That's the feeling of your brain developing. Your brain is growing right now. You know that? And that kind of like shifts the whole mindset around everything. And it changes how a child thinks about the challenge that they're facing. It changes everything. And that is our job as teachers, right? So a growth mindset approach, it still demands optimal performance from a student. Don't let a student's performance come down just because you're thinking, oh, but I'm helping them grow their mindset. No, the performance still has to be up there. Simply rewarding an effort is not effective. For example, if you reward the effort constantly, but the end result is still not better, you told the student, go back and improve this, but they came back with it with the same thing or hardly changed at all. You can't reward that effort. That is not growth mindset. You still have to work hard on that child. It just shows you that they're still stuck in that loop of fixed mindset, right? And so you have to make sure that the optimal performance has to be there, and you have to set the standard. You have to encourage the students to go on and make sure that they do well, right? Okay. So now I'm going to give you 10 strategies for fostering a growth mindset in the classroom. Okay, so these 10 strategies, you can note them down with yourself, note them down somewhere in a notebook. This video will be up on Facebook. It'll be there if you want to come on my Facebook group. If you want to come back to it to try and, take down notes, please go right ahead, right? And do that. And I encourage you to do that, because using these strategies within your classroom is not only easy, but it will change your game, your teaching game. It will help the students take responsibility for their studying, right? Whereas you are responsible for the performance, but they're responsible for the effort, right? And it will make your job all the more easier. Plus, you end up being their favorite teacher because you're encouraging them all the time. Okay, all right, so point number 1, normalize the idea of a struggle. Struggling is part of the learning process. That's just what it is, right? But somehow or the other, sometimes we tend to take the easy way out so often, where there's nothing wrong with taking the easy way out. I do it all the time, and I encourage everyone to do that, sure. But a struggle in some cases has to be there. Not everything can be easy. So normalize that, make it part of the classroom, emphasize and reinforce the idea to help students react positively when they feel challenged. Like that statement we just talked about growing the brain, right? About not being able to do something because the feeling that they have in their brain is the feeling of a brain growing and progressing, right? Change your words so they don't see struggles as something negative, but as something positive. Secondly, encourage engagement with challenges. It's pretty much the same thing, but here in this case, you will be bringing up the challenges. Like in their textbook, you have one math concept, you give all the questions, and then there's like the last 3 questions, which are always the most difficult, most challenging ones, right? Try and make that fun. Try and make that like a team sport in your class. You can designate teams, and say, okay, we're going to do this question. We're going to try and see if we can solve this challenging question. Bring in an essay topic, bring in a debate topic, bring in a case study if you're teaching something like economics or philosophy or something, those kinds of subjects, bring in a case study from a different classroom, from a higher class. So if you're teaching a 7th grade class, bring something from the 8th grade. And ask them. The point isn't, the idea here is not to get a correct answer or to grade your students. The idea here is to help them tackle a challenge that is beyond, or what we believe to be beyond their scope. But let me tell you, they will surprise you. They will surprise you. And if you make this a habit, your classroom is going to be fantastic. You're going to have brains growing so big, it's going to be amazing. Number 3, embrace the word yet. So if a child or a student comes to you and says, I'm not good at math, just add the word yet and say it out loud. No, well, I think what you mean is, I'm not good at math yet, right? Okay. Number 4, promote the value of hard tasks for the brain. So in this idea, you have to teach, what you need to do is you need to teach students that a brain is a muscle. And like any muscle, it's malleable. It can be formed, it can be grown, it can be made thinner, it can be made thicker. It can be developed, right? And new neurons are being formed all the time, but you have to challenge it. It doesn't form. If you're sitting in front of a TV all day, it's not being challenged. No new neurons are forming. Nothing is growing. But if you read a book, or you solve a puzzle, or you play a Sudoku, or word search or something, anything, not like Candy Crush or something like that, but like a proper game that actually uses your brain, you know. That's when you're building neural pathways, new neural pathways. Your brain is growing, getting smarter. Okay. The next one is demonstrate mistakes and celebrate corrections. I want to pause here for a bit. As teachers, how many times have we been writing on the board or have we been doing something and have we had the students point out to us, Miss, you made a mistake? Oh, they enjoy it so much. They enjoy pointing it out to us, isn't it? How do we react? How do we react when we are told that we've made a mistake in the classroom? I mean, we're teachers. According to us, we should never be mistakes. We should be beyond fault, which is not true, of course, but still. So if we can model the proper behavior. A good way of doing this is if you are doing some sort of exercise on maybe a grammar exercise on the board, right? Try and model the behavior by making a deliberate mistake and then stepping back from the board and say, kids, I think I made a mistake. No, I'm sure I made a mistake. Can you guys help me find the mistake? What do you think should go there? And my confidence, my demeanor, and my willingness to ask for help from the students is just going to show them that that's how they should react when they make mistakes. And that starts from us, even as parents. When we make mistakes, do you do, oh my God, what the hell did I do? I'm so stupid. Do you do this? Stop it. Or do you get embarrassed and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's horrible. Oh my God. Oh. You rub it off and, you know, or if you're a parent, you're like embarrassed and you're just like, yeah, okay, fine. All right. Not everybody's perfect. Okay. Even I can make mistakes. Is that your reaction? That's also not okay. So modeling the correct behavior teaches them how they should handle mistakes. And if you don't make mistakes, fantastic. I think you're amazing. Rare, but amazing. I think you're very rare, but you're amazing. Then I need you to make mistakes deliberately on purpose and ask your students for help to demonstrate the correct behavior and celebrate corrections. So when a student makes a mistake, you get an essay in front of your table and you're correcting it. And there's a lot of mistakes. Let's say in an essay, you've seen 20 mistakes. As an English teacher or as any language teacher, I know you already know that we don't correct all the mistakes. We will take 6 or 7 mistakes and we write those down. But if we come together and we fix the mistakes together as a team, as a class, or as teams, I love teamwork in the classroom, you know, just divide them into teams. And we correct the work together. We remove judgment, we remove negativity. We allow people to, students to understand that, oh, we can share our work even if it is full of mistakes. And that helps them take criticism and helps them accept things. That is what we need to model as teachers and as parents. Okay, number 6, moving on. We set goals. Anything big that we give the kids, we need to set small, measurable goals, which will be set by the students themselves according to their own abilities, according to their perception of their own abilities. Encourage them to set goals. So if they have homework, encourage them to write the steps down. First, I'll do this, this, this. Setting goals helps them see that everything is doable in small, tiny, bite-sized chunks. Everything is doable. There's nothing on this earth that cannot be done or cannot be understood, right? Okay. Number 7, develop cooperative exercises. So when you work together, again, this is the concept of teamwork. Have teamwork in the class, solve problems. It emphasizes that there's a process, right? To go about correcting yourself, to go about, you know, dealing with anything. And it also reinforces the importance of getting help and finding solutions. So it removes judgment, basically. And that's very key to a growth mindset. And teamwork teaches, you know, kids a lot. These are skills that will go onto their workplace when they find jobs, when they grow up, when they go to university. These are all skills that'll help them enormously. Number 8, provide challenges. We did kind of like speak about this a little bit more. But teaching students to overcome obstacles is very, very important. So bring in extra hard math examples, bring in complex writing assignments, you know, that stretches the kids' abilities. Don't emphasize that you will correct it or you will grade it or they have to be perfect. Just try and challenge them a little bit. They have to, and you know, don't, and please be careful not to praise them, not to praise their intelligence. You're very smart. I'm glad you got that. Good job. Or you, listen, I know you can do it. Okay. Try and steer away from such comments. And lastly, do not oversimplify. Oversimplification is the death of the growth mindset, honestly. And we have gotten into the culture of oversimplification too often, honestly. So what do I mean by oversimplify? When you use statements like, you can do anything, as encouraging as that is, it's also oversimplifying things. It doesn't really, it's not constructive. Again, it's not constructive. It's not helping the student break down anything of what they can and cannot do. It's not helping them achieve a goal or to think about goals in the correct way. It's not putting them in a position to overcome challenges. It's just harmless encouragement. And at the end of the day, when you use this a lot, students will kind of view you as giving empty compliments and not really having any substance, honestly. And that doesn't really look good on a teacher, you know, or as a parent. That doesn't really look good. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of affirmations. Affirmations is a concept of where you put something up on a chart, on a mirror, in a frame, inside of a book, little quotes, you know, like little quotes, little things that you can write. And then when you read them often, but it has to be somewhere visible. It can't be like a note on your phone that you have to actually go into to check. Again, you will never do that. It could be a Post-it, you put it on the side of your screen. It could be on top of your notebook, like a little caption, something. Now, affirmations are very important, especially for children's minds. So when they're in front of their eyes and when they listen to it all the time from you, it's very important. This section is how to change the words. I'm sorry, my throat, I just need to. So this section is how to change the words kids use to describe themselves. And you can see many statements over here. I encourage you to put the words up somewhere for the kids to see and to absorb, whether it's in the classroom. You don't have to put them all up because then it becomes ineffective, but from time to time, put them up and train yourself to change your own words. So you can use a statement. So the purple statement would be the statement from the child and the black would be from you, a counteracting statement. So you change their minds on how they think about their own abilities. So for example, I've got 10 examples in front of you. So the first one, if a child says, either I'm good at something or I'm not, if that's what they think. For example, I'm either good at math or I'm not, simple. Then you have to switch the words have to be switched to, if I'm not good at something, I can always become better at it through practice. See how the words are changed? And see how the mind shifts, the thinking shifts? Because that's what we're trying to do. That's exactly the whole point of this. That's how you shift a mindset. And I guess you can tell that it's not going to be instant. Like if I use this once on a kid, it's not going to work immediately. It's going to have to be regular programming. It's going to have to be slow and steady and constant affirmation, constant reinforcement within the classroom, outside of the classroom. You get the idea. Number two, what if you think there's no point in trying if I'm going to fail? Or you could say, I see failures as opportunities to learn, to reassess, and to do better next time. What about the next one? I can't learn now. It's too late. Switch this with, I can learn whatever I want or need to, exactly when I need to learn it. Lastly on this page, I take feedback as a personal attack. Remember criticisms? We're talking about criticism. I take feedback as a personal attack. Switch this with, I can find the value in every bit of feedback I receive. Now I have to say, I got to stop here and say something. You know what? This is largely dependent on the person giving the feedback. Sometimes people who are giving the feedback are just so nasty about giving the feedback that no matter how growth mindset oriented you are, you can't help but feel bad about it. And that's normal. That's absolutely normal. But I will reemphasize, I can find the value in every bit of feedback I receive. Try and find, no matter how badly the criticism was given, because let's face it, most people in the world don't know how to give constructive feedback or proper criticism. They're just too willing to, just blurt it out to you rather than being careful about how they say it or what they say, or whether it is even their place to say, So you need to try and not take this as a personal attack, but try and see if there's something valuable there. Maybe it could be from a friend, maybe it could be from a colleague, a boss, a parent, a sibling. Try and see if there's something within the horrible criticism that they gave you that you may be able to take as valuable feedback and change. Don't let your emotions get the better of you. Don't react, okay? Assess and think. Take time if you need to. All right, let's take a look at the next one. I always struggle with, can be replaced with, I can always do better at something if I want to, but it will take effort. So it's not easy. I can't make this any better. It is what it is. You know what? I can't change it. It is what it is. My life is horrible. That's how it is, and I can't change it. That's it. Or you could say, what could I have done better? How can I carry this forward? So this is a way of taking failure, of how you think about failure. So this really helps with those kids who are held back a grade. So they failed their final exams and they're being held back. You can either crush their spirit by making them feel bad about what has happened. There could be reasons, I'm sure. And maybe one of those reasons is the child didn't try hard enough. But then you also have to ask yourself, if the child didn't try hard enough, did they believe in their ability to be able to do it? Did they? And then we have to work on the mindset. You can't write any human being off just like that and say, well, they're a failure. Right? So we need to try and work on their mindsets. Okay, so the next one is, I feel threatened, intimidated by the success of others. This is like we talked about this when we did the chart, isn't it? So when you're threatened by the success of others, if you feel like this, or if this is the kind of talk that's going into kids' minds, I feel threatened by the success of others, we replace it with, when I see others succeed, it makes me think that I can too. What did these people do that made them so successful? And how can it be my model? Remember I talked about reading books by famous successful people, right? Like there's books by Elon Musk, Simon Sinek, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, so many books out there. How can you be successful like them? And if you just resent them for being the 1% billionaires of the world and you hate them all, you're never going to improve your life. You're never going to teach kids that they can improve their life. All right, let's move on. So what if a child thinks my current abilities are the measure of my outcomes? So I have low ability in math, therefore I got a low grade in math, in the math test. Replace these words with, my determination and effort are the measure of my outcomes. So my ability is directly related to the number of hours or the number of exercises that I have done to try and improve myself. Sorry, I had my 3-year-old come out again. And yeah, life of a mom. I love it. What can I say? Okay, let's move on. So the next one is, I already know everything I need to know. We've all had this moment that we think, oh, there's nothing new that we need to learn. We already know it all, isn't it? Yeah. How about we shift the thought over here and the thinking process over here, and we say, I enjoy learning and growing, and learning is a lifetime pursuit for me. Doesn't that sound better? Imagine if you believed it. Isn't that great? And nobody's asking you to go and learn to the level of mastery. No, nobody's saying that, because that's like a tough job. You can't be master at everything or a lot of things. If you're a master at one thing, that's more than enough, in my opinion. But, nobody's aiming for perfection. Just keep learning and keep enjoying the process of learning. That's it. And if you can teach children this key concept, if you can teach them this, and if you can help them enjoy the process of learning, imagine how easy your life is going to be within the classroom. Imagine how engaging your classroom is going to be, right? Okay, the next one. I've always been told that I can't. Something, something, something. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do whatever, you're not good at sports, I don't know, you can't do a long jump because you're a girl or something like that. I don't know, I'm just giving an example. How about we replace this thought with, no one can know my potential. I must discover it for myself, independent from outside opinion and influence. If every child believes this, it would change everything, would change the whole game on how they perceive themselves and how hard they're willing to work on their own futures, isn't it? So those were the 10 statements and the 10 affirmations that I wanted to give to you. We are reaching the end of our session, or we have reached the end of our session. And, I just wanted to kind of now go over a summary or a takeaway from the session. What is a summary of the session? So, summary. Normalize failure. Do you remember this? There's this multi-billion-dollar industry of fitted, sort of like fitted wear. It's called Spanx. I don't know if you know it, but anyway, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. And it was formed by this one woman, perfectly normal woman. She was not born a millionaire, but perfectly normal woman called Sara Blakely. So she's the founder of Spanx, and she says that her dad used to come, when she used to come home from school, her dad was in the habit of saying to her, what did you fail at today, my girl? Imagine a dad asking you that. What did you fail at today? Now, what he meant by that was not that he wanted her to fail at something and come home and say, yeah, I failed, but I feel fine. That wasn't his point. His point was, okay, honey, you failed at it today. When are you doing it again? When are you starting it again? Right? So that was his point. So normalize failure. Explain neuroplasticity in the classroom. Please, please do that. Explain the idea, show them a video, go through a journal, I don't know, read an article, or keep talking about it. You have to keep talking about it. Just explaining it once and then letting it go is never going to work. What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity talks about your brain's ability to develop, to grow, to develop new neural pathways, to be able to gain new knowledge. The more you practice, so let's say, for example, you just learned how to play chess or play the guitar. Okay, you're like 40 years old and you decided, oh, I'm going to try something new hobby. Yeah. Okay, so you did it. Wonderful. Yay. But then if you sit down and think, but I'm 40 years old, what the hell am I going to learn? I can't do this. No, that's not true. Studies show that the brains are so adaptable right towards the end of your life that even if you take up something as complicated as chess in your 40s, you will not only learn how to play it, but the more you play it, you will just keep getting better and better and better at it because your brain is getting smarter and smarter. Give this concept to the kids. The more they practice whatever concept that you teach them, they only get better. Okay, nobody's brain is weak, nobody has limited abilities, and there's no such thing as a fixed intelligent. You either are intelligent or you're not intelligent. No, there is no such concept. Okay, in fact, there was a study that showed a group of students who were taught that learning changes the brain together with study skills training. They performed better than students who were simply taught study skills. That's it, they performed better. Offer effective learning strategies. Effective learning strategies. So motivation and effort are very, very important, but they're not really enough if you want to optimize learning. We need to work smarter and not harder. So sitting down and just memorizing pages and pages of work of your history book does not just get you results. You have to offer smarter strategies. This involves a concept called metacognition. Metacognition. Cognition has to do with thinking skills, your brain, your perception skills. And metacognition actually means that you're thinking about thinking skills. And a lot of universities use these, a lot of colleges use this. And what they do is they teach students how to use their brains in an effective manner to study in the least possible amount of time. You don't have to sit 12 hours cramming before an exam anymore. You can do it much better. In fact, I'm going to be doing this teacher session. Inshallah, my next micro lesson is planned around the topic of metacognition. So if you want to keep an eye out for that, inshallah, I will be doing that. After this, metacognition are teaching strategies within the classroom that teach students to study smarter, learn smarter, not harder. And if you teach that to students, right, it optimizes their learning and helps their ability and gives them confidence as well. Encourage them to ask for help when necessary. We already talked about this. Model making mistakes and asking for their help. That is more important than anything else, than being perfect or being embarrassed about making a mistake or being afraid to ask for help. That is much, much more important. Next, reward persistence. As opposed to outcomes, as opposed to results, reward persistence. Of course, keep in mind, you want the correct answer, so optimal performance has to be there. Absolutely, you cannot just allow them to give you shoddy work, but they worked hard at it. No, teach them that the more they persist at a problem to attain the right answer, or to get closer to the right answer, as possible as it is, depending on the subject you're teaching, that's the thing that you need to reward. Please don't say to kids, oh, but please stop telling kids that, oh, you can do it, you can do anything. Stop doing that. That does not work. Okay, it does not work. And it's just not, it just doesn't work, right? Okay. All right, let's move on. Offer reflective questions that encourage a growth mindset. Okay, so we're coming back to metacognition over here. Let me just give you a brief sort of like an idea of what metacognitive strategies are for teachers in the classroom. It's nothing difficult. I know it sounds, because the word is so complicated, it sounds like a huge concept, but it's not. Basically, you're just asking reflective questions. That's it. And it pairs perfectly into what a growth mindset is, right? So it's going to be like, for example, we can think that a low grade is a result of a lack of ability in the subject, right? But if you are thinking about your mindset as being metacognitive, and you want to solve this mindset problem, then you have to adopt reflective questions. So, for example, imagine a student gets a C on a test. A fixed mindset response might be, well, I'm just not smart in this subject. A metacognitive growth mindset response might be, I haven't learned this yet. What strategies did I use to learn the material in the first place? Did I spend enough time and effort studying this? Do I need additional help in understanding the key concepts? Maybe I can ask for help. And most importantly, what could I do differently the next time? So when you ask reflective questions like this, you encourage a growth mindset, and these metacognitive teaching strategies are very key. And yeah, inshallah, I will be I will be doing my next, inshallah, micro learning session will be all about metacognition, metacognitive questioning within the classroom to encourage students to think with a growth mindset. So that's it from me. And yeah, so I'm done with my slides, right? Thank you so much for listening to me. Does anybody have any questions? I am willing to take any questions now if there are any. And that's it. Thank you, Fatma. She just joined my she just joined me on Zoom. Thank you, Fatma. That's very sweet of you. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee while I wait for questions, if there are any. Remember that this live, I hope if I've done everything correctly, I am now worried because this is my first time doing this. I am worried that it's not going to be saved. Inshallah, that's not going to be the case. So it's going to be saved. At least my effort is that this is going to be saved, and it's going to be on my Facebook group page. And if you have any questions later on, please, please, please feel free to ask them in the comments. I will come back to them. I will be interacting with you through the comments. So if you have any questions, any comments, any helpful advice, because I'm always open to advice. And if you feel that there's something in my presentation or in my session that I just didn't maybe I just didn't do it very well, please give me that criticism. It'll help me get better all the more, right? Okay, so there's nothing in my Zoom chat. Let me check the Facebook chat. Yes, thank you, Maheen. Yes, absolutely. Metacognitive skills do broaden the horizon. Oh, absolutely. It is gold. Thank you, Maniza. It is. It's good to reconnect with people that I haven't spoken to in so long, you know? Okay. All right, so there doesn't seem to be any questions. Okay. Again, if you have any questions later on, then please feel free to ask. I will answer them. And oh, and one more thing. I'm going to be, since this is a Teach Right series that I've started and it's going to continue on, inshallah, keep going. Hopefully I'm aiming at once every 2 weeks for now. I'm aiming at that because I don't want to put too much pressure on myself because then I won't deliver. I'll just, scare myself basically. So if there's any topic that you would really like to hear about, or you would really like a micro lesson on, then please mention that topic in the chat, in the comment section below this post. Please mention what it is that you would like which topic you would like me to tackle next, anytime, and I will do that. Yeah, anything that you would be interested in having a whole micro lesson on, I would be more than happy to do that. These are these are not advertising sessions. I'm not trying to advertise for anything. I'm not trying to ask for payment for these sessions. I just want to share as much information as I can and create a dialogue around important topics, right? Okay, all right, so there's nothing there. That's okay, no questions, fantastic. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope I managed to interest you in the topic of what metacognition is, what neuroplasticity is, and how to encourage a growth mindset in children and the classroom. Have a lovely rest of the evening, and I will see you next time. Bye.